In the previous lecture, we discussed about that if there are two species which have the capability of donating a proton, then which one out of them would preferably act as an acid and which will act as a base. So for this we use the pKa scale, like the one with the smaller value of pKa will behave as an acid as compared to the one with the larger value of the pKa that will act as a base. Now in this lecture we will learn how to predict the position of the equilibrium using pKa values, that is whether the equilibrium will favor the right hand side, that is the formation of products, or will favor the left hand side, that is the reactants. This we are going to predict based on the pKa values. Okay, now for that, important thing is that for any acid base reaction, equilibrium always favors the weaker acid or the weaker base. And this makes sense also because we know that what is a strong acid? A strong acid is the one which completely dissociates. So when it dissociates, it gives you a weaker conjugate base. Okay, so this is what is favored. So strong acid is the one which is completely dissociated, and on dissociation what we get is a weaker conjugate base. That is why the equilibrium always goes in that direction where you get a weaker acid or a weaker base. Now let's do this, try to understand this with one example. So let's take the usual example which we have discussed earlier. If we have a phenol molecule, so this is phenol, and you add base to that like hydroxide ion, okay, and so phenol will act as an acid. Okay, so this base will abstract this proton and push the electrons onto oxygen. Okay, just a moment. So this is going to push the electrons onto oxygen, and what you get as a product is the phenoxide ion plus water molecule, H2O, because OH negative takes that proton and becomes water. Now to predict whether the reaction would be favoring products or favoring reactants, for that we need the pKa values. So pKa value for phenol is 9.9, while pKa value for water is 14. Now using this logic that for any acid-base reaction, equilibrium always favors the weaker acid. So of these two, which one is the weaker acid? This is the weaker acid. The one with the larger value of pKa would be the weaker acid. So it means this equilibrium will favor the formation of phenoxide ion from phenol. Okay, so it will favor the products as compared to the reactants. Fine. We can take another example. Say if the example of this, acetylene or ethylene, which is an alkyne, plus a base like amide, NH2, equilibrium. So this base, NH2 negative, it abstracts this proton, pushing the electrons onto carbon, and what you get as a product is acetylide anion plus ammonia. Okay, now to predict which side would be favored, like equilibrium would be more towards the right hand side or the left hand side, we need the pKa values. So the pKa value of this acid, which is acetylene, is acting as an acid. So pKa value of acetylene or ethine is 25, while the pKa value for ammonia is 38. So larger pKa value means weaker acid, and that is what is favored in an equilibrium. So the reaction would be favoring, or the equilibrium would be more towards the right hand side or product side. This is how we predict a reaction. It's not always in the right hand side, but it goes in the direction where you have a bigger pKa or weaker acid. So this is how we do this prediction. Thank you.